Hi, Sadie here, and my friend and coworker Kimberly showed me how to sew a V-neck with a perfect crisp little point, and I want to show you how to do it. So I'm starting with a front piece of jersey that's cut out like a V-neck t-shirt, and you would be following whatever pattern you would be using. And the first step is going to be to stitch 3/8 of an inch from the raw edge at the V. And then you're going to clip to those stitches, but not clipping through them. So that's step one. And then step two, you have your neckband. And so mine is a two-piece neckband that I've stitched together right sides, and instead of just stitching it straight like it typically has you do, I have marked 3/8 of an inch from this short end and then stitched from that point to each corner of my short end. And then I clip and snip again right up to those stitches without snipping through them. So the next step is I'm going to take this and I'm going to open it up and I'm going to finger press this seam allowance open. Because what happens is this neckband gets folded right sides together, and there you see eventually what's going to be that V that connects to the shirt. So what I need to do before I pin this to the main shirt is I'm gonna go baste it right along this outer edge of the neckband just to hold it in place for the next step. So I'm gonna go to my machine and I'm gonna baste this 1 inch on each side of that point. All right, so now this is the tricky part. I'm going to be pinning this V to this V, which seems completely counterintuitive, but bear with me, it's totally doable. So I'm taking this point and I want to pin it to this point. I'm working right sides. So this was stitched together, wrong sides facing, and I'm working on the right side of my front of my t-shirt. And this is the point. So I need to pin this point to the other point. And I'm just gonna come in here and get that point pinned. And then I need to flip it to the wrong side to kind of check that I've done this correctly. So I'm gonna come over to the wrong side. And now I'm looking at this point pinned at that point, and I'm going to be manipulating. So now is where I'm going to take these legs of my neckband and I'm going to kind of turn them, rotate them so that they're lining up the raw edges with my front of my t-shirt, with the neck of my t-shirt. So all 3 raw edges are lined up and I'm going to pin that in place. And for this V-neck, I really just want to be working like 1 inch, 1.5 inches from that point, really no further beyond that. We're going to be straight stitching, and when you're working with a knit or a jersey, you really need to be stitching this neckband on with a stretch stitch. So we only want to use the straight stitch for this very small section at the V. The rest of the neckband would be stitched on with a stretch stitch. So now I'm going to go to the other side and I'm going to manipulate and rotate the other side, the other leg of the band to, okay, so my little point isn't perfectly pinned and I'm going to go back and adjust that. But let me get these 3 layers pinned. About 1 inch or so, 1.5 inches. I'm going to get those raw layers pinned together. So now I have this all pinned together, and I'm going to go to the machine and then I'm going to show you how I have to kind of push and manipulate the fabric at the machine to get this stitched on. Okay, so now I have this under my presser foot with a 3/8 inch seam allowance and my needle down. And before I start stitching, I'm gonna raise my presser foot and I'm gonna move the bulk of this fabric out of the way so that I'm stitching a nice flat seam for about 1 inch on this side of the point. So I can lower my presser foot and I can see those previous reinforcement guide stitches that we did on the main side of the t-shirt. Those are gonna kind of guide me as to where I want to stitch. And I can remove this first pin on this side and I'm stitching from the point out 1 inch, and then we'll go back to the point and stitch the other side. So I'm gonna hold all of these 3 layers together and I'm gonna start stitching. Oh, but I don't want to be on basting, so let's make sure I'm not doing that because we were basting before. It's always a trick to make sure you put the machine back on the right stitch length after you're done basting. And I'm going pretty slow, so if you want to leave your pins in and stitch over those pins, it's not, not going to be the end of the world. And so now I'm going to move over and I'm going to stitch the other side from the point. And so all of my bulk's going to kind of be in the center of my bed because I want to be looking at the wrong side. So I'm going to come in here, back at that point, 3/8 of an inch. And now I'm manipulating and moving all of this fabric out of the way so I have a nice flat seam to stitch here. Using those guide stitches. Okay. I'll snip all my threads and then we'll go see how we did. All right, so look at that. Kimberly is so right. This is probably one of the best V-necks that I've ever done, and I just need to go in and snip out those basting stitches and then it's gonna look perfect. And of course, you're gonna be using thread that matches the t-shirt that you're working on. So there you have it, a perfect V-neck every time. For more tips and tutorials, don't forget to subscribe. Happy sewing!